Okay, ladies. Um, welcome to tonight's session around, I've called it Limitless Woman, because we're talking all about the core relationship that you have to your own power and to abundance. And we're also going to be talking about the minimum and the maximum standards that you hold and how that is such a precursor for what you're experiencing in your life, in every element of life, but particularly with money, because we're going to talk to you about that. But the thing I love about money and the thing I love about business is, I mean, there's lots of things, but one core one is that they've been such a teacher to me, and they really reveal patterns that will show up in all parts of life. So if you're really working on your business and money and things, it will ricochet and ripple in the learnings you have there, and the way you change there will evolve you as a human. And so then it will come out through your relationships, the way you treat your health, the way you treat other people. Like it infiltrates everything. And so even though I'm going to hone in on money for this session, it's a teacher of you. It's an evolver of you, and it wants that for you. It wants to refine you. It wants to lift you higher, and it wants to elevate others with you, if you let it. So I'm really excited to go into tonight. So it's one of the most powerful lessons that I've uncovered, with abundance, and I've had quite a journey with it, and I'll tell you more about that in time. But before we do dive on and in further, I'd love you to think of this question and give me your response. And whoever's watching this in the replay, have a thought of this, and you can comment, in the replay if you want as well. But what is your biggest struggle with abundance right now? What do you feel is your battle with it, your struggle with it? What's the challenge with it right now? If you could just put that in the chat. I just want to hear like the current experience you're having before I talk to more. Natalie, consistency. Yeah. Don't deserve it. Yes, it can definitely be, related to worth. We can definitely think that that's the case. Can I handle what I'm asking for? Yeah, questions around our ability, our capacity, that sort of piece as well. Definitely. Consistency and predictability. Amazing. These things that you're saying, like, we're going to be talking to it. And this is sort of a formula to create in a way, a structure, a way that universe works with money and energy to help create consistency, predictability, stability, and beyond, magic with it as well, not just that. I don't feel financially abundant at the moment. Yeah. So we can feel scarce, we can feel like energetically, and it can also be time or love, poor, or anything. Like we can feel that we're lacking or poor or scarce in other areas as well. So abundance is often like a frequency, and it can be in other places, not just with money. Believing in myself, that's safe to receive. Yes. Time lag, consistency. And when you're saying time lag, I imagine you're feeling like there's a lag between you putting out value and all these things and then it coming. Is that what you mean? Scarcity mindset. Yes. Okay. So if anyone else wants to write anything in, you can. I'm going to keep going, and yeah, we'll keep talking to these things. So you're really revealing a lot of common challenges that people have, with abundance. And the thing that I'm going to talk to, as I said today, is going to support you in shifting that reality and shifting that into the vision that you want, the dream that you have, the reason why you want abundance and things. Like we're going to move you into those places. And so I just want to tell you a few things about the journey I went to from where I was with money before and where I am with it now, and that relationship shift that will make more sense as to like the pieces I'm going to deliver, the parts I'm going to tell you about how to transition. You'll get more of a vibe of that through the journey I tell you about. So when I first started out with money and started out with my business, I had, similar issues to you. I had an issue around just feeling quite powerless with money and scarce with it, and that I was not really in the power and control seat of knowing how to create it and how to consistently create it. And it was sort of this force that was outside of me, and it didn't seem to matter what I did, how hard I worked, how many coaches I got, how many modalities I learned. It didn't seem to matter what I seemed to do and how much input I seemed to have. It didn't really change my reality, you know? And so I had this experience where I grew up in a family that had issues around scarcity or just like mindsets around that. And I think I've mentioned in a few stories before, if you've heard any of my stories before, that my dad grew up in a farm. And so there was this feast famine sort of mentality. And there was this yo-yoing that happened in his life, and this lots of it and none of it, and like this scarcity. But again, the core of it was there's a sense of powerlessness, that he wasn't in control of the power of his jobs and money. And I also felt that as well. And so throughout my working life, I had jobs and then I lost jobs, and I had jobs and I lost jobs. Like, that were not because I got fired or anything like that, but they were just the contracts were ending, or the government made a decision and the job wasn't there anymore and it was redundant, or whatever it was. And so this pattern like just followed me through my life. And then when I started out my business, it followed me as well. I was working 50 hours a week with a newborn son. I'd just broken up with my husband of 10-year relationship. And when I was pregnant, I found out some difficult things about him. He was cheating. We couldn't face it anymore. And so we broke up. And I was facing like starting a business, having my newborn son by myself, and going through a divorce and a breakup all at once. It was like the trifecta of challenge. And that was like challenges in and of itself, and it was draining a lot of my energy, and there was a lot of problems with that. But the fact was, I went head down, bum up, like so hard into working to get my business going, because I needed to create money for my son. I needed to have freedom for us. I needed to have abundance for us. And I'd always wanted to do my business, and I wasn't going to let this relationship get in the way of my business and coaching. And so I was working 50 hours a week with a newborn son, still going through all of the challenges I was going through. I got coach after coach, invested for 3 years into my business, over $300,000 in mentors and programs and coaches, every strategy thing under the sun. I did everything they said. I did every action they said. I was trying everything, but I could not keep consistent money going on. I couldn't get predictability going on. I'd go 0K, then I'd have 5K, I'd have 7K, 2K. My money was bouncing around everywhere. And it didn't seem to matter how hard I worked, how fast I span on the hamster wheel. I just couldn't create, consistency and stability and predictability for myself. And so that was a real challenge. And I just was like, what is missing? Like, I feel I've uncovered these pieces and they say this is the answer and I'm doing it. And it's like, what am I missing? What's here? Because I'm not working it out. I'm not figuring it out. So that was the challenge at the beginning of my business. And then I went into another challenge, because I started to do this strategy program, and it was sort of like this big hurrah that someone got me into. And I was like, I'm going to be a pro. I'm going to really go all in on my business. I'm going to put, like, it was $5,000 a month I was paying, even though I hadn't had any consistent money in my business. And I went all in on this thing. But actually, I went into 4 months of $0 coming into my bank account, into my coaching. And I created this really difficult space where for 4 months I made nothing, and I got into debt because of it, because there was other expenses and things as well. I got to get myself into $20,000 of debt, in my bank account. I was borrowing off someone. I didn't have any more money to borrow off them. And so I was looking down the barrel of like having to lose my house, like live somewhere with my son. I didn't even know. It was like this worst position I put myself in. And I'd sort of decided like this was going to be the turnaround. I was going to put all this time in this coach and this like work. And it was like, I did these 20 sales calls. Every single person said no. I was trying again, everything. And it got worse and worse, and I was like, what is going on? What is happening here? And so that was the real struggle battle season with money. It was yo-yo. It was like not even there. It was, and I was so guilty and shameful, but I also hated money. I hated it wasn't backing me. I hated, if I was in a relationship with money, which I'm actually going to get you to look at in a moment and a bit later, I was like, it wasn't around. It didn't come to me when I asked for it. I was working my ass off and it was never there. And whenever it came, it would just leave straight away. Like, I was not having a nice, healthy, beautiful relationship with money. I hated it and it hated me, I felt, because it wasn't showing up and it wasn't choosing me. And so I really dug deep at this point, and I was like, there has to be something else. This isn't working. Like, there has to be something. And so that's when I actually got introduced to energy work. When I got introduced to, there's a part of our soul, there's a part of the emotional world, there's a part of the energetic world, there's a part of this quantum world, there's all of this going on that I didn't really even know about. And it didn't seem to matter what I was doing in this conscious physical way. If I wasn't working on that, if I wasn't going deeper and going to the depths of why this is going on and the core patterns and changing at that level, then I wasn't going to change anything. And so I actually started doing some intuitive work. I'd started learning this super conscious work at that month, right before it was all going to go to crap. I started doing some energy work around abundance and money and my relationship to money, and some work around what I'm going to teach you around these lower and upper limits. I started doing this on that month. And when I did that and I started following my intuition a lot more and following my energetic world a lot more and started investing in that and going in that direction, I made my first $20,000 month, and then I just went and grew and exponentially grew. That was 4 years ago, over 4 years ago now. Went into 60K, 100K, 200K, all these different things over the next few years because of some shifts that I made and the energetic pieces that I wasn't dealing with, which really were the underlayer of why things were happening to me. And I was just trying to deal with the surface strategy actions and I wasn't going deep enough. And so the thing I'm going to teach you today, what we're going to look at is how to go deeper, how to go into the underlayers, how to work at a really soul core level. Because unless you go there and you work at that point, things aren't going to change no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you work. Trust me, I tried everything, and if you don't go deep enough, it won't change. You're not excavating, you're not renovating, you're not changing the core element. And so you're just spinning around on the surface, recycling the same patterns. So that's what we're going to go into today. And I'm going to dive into it quite a bit more. I'd love to know, though, like, what is it that lands from my story? There's a lot of different things I could go into the depth of the story, and I will unpack more in the moment later on as well. But what jumps out to you about what I've shared there? What's the lesson for you in that? Put it in the chat. Going deep, still need to go deeper. Yeah. Trust the process. Energy level. Yes. Nothing shifts unless we dive deep. Yes. It's always the energetic. The strategy is just the easy bit. Yeah. And it's not that it doesn't matter and it's not important. But if you work on the energetic piece, the strategy comes naturally, what you're led to do and comes a lot more naturally. And, you're in alignment with those actions. When I was on these sales calls and stuff, I was stressed. I was worried about money. I was desperate. Like, they could sense I wasn't sure of myself. They could sense all of this stuff. So even though I was doing all the things, it wasn't in alignment, and the underbelly of it and the undercore of it wasn't there. So they could sense the hollowness of it, the robot that I was, until I started adding my heart and soul and doing other work. So needing to go deeper. Yes. The wheels are spinning. Yes. So I want to share, firstly, before we go into anything further, is that, as I said to you before, like, your relationship to money and the way you perceive money and the way you feel about money and your soul and its connection to money is very core as to what you're experiencing right now. The issues that you're experiencing right now, the way it's showing up or not showing up for you, the way it's mirroring to you, at the heart of it, it's a reflection of, like, your relationship to money. If I'm talking about my son and I, my relationship to him, and the quality and health of that relationship is dependent and of him and of me, like, it's dependent on our connection to each other and our relationship to each other. A partner of mine, clients, my business, it's like money, it's all our health, whatever. It's all about, at the core, our relationship to that entity. And if the relationship's healthy and strong and beautiful, it thrives. And if it's not, and it's poisoning and there's something blocking it, it will disintegrate. It will get not nourished. It's not getting fed, it's getting starved, and it will shrivel, right? So if I'm to say to you, you have a relationship with money right now in this moment, and imagining it's a partner, imagining it's a person, like, I just want you to step into that right now. And I want you to imagine, like, what would money be saying to you and what do you feel about it? What's the quality of the relationship right now? When you get to start to understand what the current one is right now, like, start to put in the chat, start to share. And how do you see that reflected in life at the moment? I don't feel worthy, so I give it away. Yeah, that's a very common one. When we don't feel worthy of it and we're not actually worthy to hold it, like, we just let it go. We just get rid of it. We can't save it, hold it. Just doing it. Yeah. It's always told me to be really careful, as you may not get any more. Yeah. So even that thing is like, if you imagine a human being and you're like, I don't know if you're going to come or go. And, like, I don't know if you're going to stay, like, I'm going to hold you, I'm going to lock you down in the dungeon, never let you out anymore. Like, What's the quality of that relationship going to be? But that's how we're often treating money, right? It's saying, why are you ignoring me? Yeah. And sometimes, like in the world and things, like we've been told money's bad, it's evil, it will corrupt you. It's a bad thing to want. If you want to be spiritual, like you should just go for your mission and heart, and money shouldn't matter anyway. And so money's getting the message like, you don't matter. I don't care about you. I don't value you. You're worthless, pointless to me. Like, so is it going to come in and hang around? Like, it's like it's going to go to someone who's valuing it and adding value to it too, right? It's not being cared for. As soon as it comes in, I pay. Yeah, it's like how much presence, how much quality, how much honoring, how much love, how much gratitude do we give it? If you think of your friendships, your relationships that are thriving, what is in that relationship, and are you doing that? Because the first thing I want to say to you before we go into any more specifics is like your relationship to and your soul, your connection to money or blockage is creating your reality right now. It's just mirroring, it's just projecting out into the world. And as soon as you change that at the core, it can start to change what's projected and what's experienced outside. But if you don't, it doesn't matter what you try to do. That's why it was what I was trying to do. It wasn't changing. Right? It's guarded, scared to spend it because I don't know it will come back. Yeah. Again, think about relationships you've had or seen where these things are present. What's the quality of it, right? Trust that it will come. Trying to teach me, I just need to get out of the way. Yes, it does want to teach us, and it's an amazing teacher, and it's so many gifts to it, and it's so beautiful, and it's an amplifier of you and your heart and your goodness and your generosity. And but again, if we're not perceiving it in this way, it won't come, right? I save it, not careful not to be frivolous spending because it's always been on a budget. Again, what are these messages that we're sending out to the universe and to money because of that, right? And I'm not saying, oh, cool, so like let's just go crazy and spend it all, and like, because that's not necessarily honoring of money either. It's what energetic it's coming from. But these are all core pieces, right? Common thread is allowing myself to experience more joy, opening up to more, just more in general. Yeah. Yeah. How open are we? How closed are we? How contracted or how expanded? So I'm going to do like a little practice a bit later to help you dive a bit deeper into this. I'm hoping that we're going to have time. But the first thing I want you to look at and start to sit with, and even to start to sit after this call, like and talk to money about, is what's the heart of your relationship to it right now? What's the core of it? And how can you begin to open up the conversation, open up the dialogue, open up the heart to share your vulnerability, to share your pain, to share the times you feel it's let you down, to share your perspectives, whatever, and to sort of converse in a way like back and forth, imagining money was a partner or a symbol or something, to start to like, if you have an issue with a relationship or whatever, what do? You openly communicate and you start to try and navigate the issue. You start to try and bring love back into the relationship by listening and hearing and being present and working through the issues and talking through them and getting each other's perspective and then building that relationship back up, right? Because if you're intimate with money and if you love money and you trust it and you've got a gorgeous relationship to it, I can tell you now, your reality and experience of money in your world is going to be completely different. But if you're hating on it, not trusting it, wanting to stay because it doesn't come back ever, always telling it it's not enough, not, in faith and belief, not in surrender to it, you hate it because it's going to corrupt you, and you sort of hate and love it and want it to be and hate it. And, you've got that push-pull relationship. Like, this is the way it's going to show, right? Ask me that, Wendy, at the end if you can, because I won't have a chance to do it, that question right now. So that's the first piece that I want to talk to you about. And that's the first piece that I want you to begin to explore, the core of your relationship to money, and diving deep into that and starting to really build the connection back with it, to build the love back with it, to build the trust back with it, and there may be some big conversations you need to have, and I'll hopefully get time to start to lead you through some of those later. So that's the first piece. The second piece, if we're looking at relationships, is that you actually have a relationship to life, to money, to your health, to other people, and it comes out in this expression of your boundaries, in a way, of your lower and upper limits in your life, your energetic thermostat for your life. And you have a minimum standard, a minimum thermostat for all of your life, and you have a maximum one of what you'll allow. You have a temperature gauge in your energetics being that is keeping you at a set point in your life. We all have it. And as I said, it's like I've got a thermostat, you know, my heater, and I've set it to a certain degree here in this room. And I've set it to, you know, you can have it set to like a whole thing in the whole house, or you can have different rooms set to different temperatures. You have like a whole thermostat set for your life and how much joy and pleasure and bliss and purpose and peace like you'll allow yourself, right? You have a general life thermostat. If we just imagine a wall and there's all these different thermostats, you have a life one that you can change and it's there. And then you also have one for money. And you don't just have one for money. There's all these like little thermostats around. You have one for your income, you have one for your savings, you have one for debt, you have one for investing, you have one like all these little ones as well. But you've got a general one for money. And then these little elements and these little relationships you have to each element of money. And then you have a relationship one. And like, you know, again, the little one of like your intimate relationship, and then your friendships and your clients. And then you have one for your business and, you know, your health and your weight and your sleep and, you know, all of these things. And the key piece here is that unless you change these energetic thermostats and you go into the core and you start changing these around, as I was doing before, it does not matter what action you do, how much you spin. If you're not changing these thermostats, nothing really changes. You know, I used to work in health, and in that space, like people could go to the gym, work out really hard, eat pretty healthy, all this stuff, but there was just something that just wasn't really changing in their body, you know? And then something could happen in life, something could shift in their psychology, and then something may happen in their body, even though, you know, like stress or whatever, and then they might gain or lose lots of weight, and they haven't done anything necessarily, right? There's these energetic pieces, and it's the same with money. I tried for so long, like to do everything I could, and I couldn't have a set thermostat. I couldn't have a set number on what I would earn. Like it was just bouncing around all over the place, right? But also, I had $20,000 in my savings account, and it was set at that thermostat. And it did not matter. Even when I started to earn more money and I started to get 10K months, 20K months, 30K, like at the beginning, even though I started to earn more, because I didn't know how to change my savings thermostat and what I was holding, I didn't know what was causing that. It didn't matter what was coming in. It was just like quicksand through my hand, and it just would go out, and it would never go beyond that amount, right? Have you guys had this experience? Give me a wave if you've ever had this experience before with money, with health, with relationships. You might like, you know, break up with someone, like, I'm not getting treated like that anymore. And like, I'm never going to, you know, have that experience. And then you go in another relationship and bang, the same pattern comes up. You still feel the same way. You know, you're still treated this way. Why? Because there's an energetic thermostat within you of how you're to be treated, how you're going to be spoken to, how you're going to feel in relationships, like all these things, right? And there's an overall one, and you know, there's a life one. So that is when you start to bump up. So say, and then you've seen these examples before, someone wins the lottery, right? And they end all of a sudden have all this money coming into their account, and everyone thinks, oh, that's amazing, I just want to win the lottery. Like I've had people say that to me sometimes. Even they have millions of dollars into their account, and what happens? They start sabotaging a lot of their life, and they often end up like in cheating or divorce, or some bad thing happens to their relationships because their money has gone way beyond what their thermostat is. It's gone like to 100 degrees, and they're only used to 20 degrees, you know, in their house, and it's super hot. And so they just like fry other things in their life. They sabotage other things in life. Relationships go to crap. One thing grows up, and then the other thing takes a toll. And they're not used to holding that amount, so they just spend it, get rid of it. There was a couple that knew about this phenomena, and they were like, okay, like we're going to be so frugal. We're not going to go on business class. We're going to save all our money. We're going to, you know, I'm going to put it in investments. And they did all this stuff. And then lo and behold, even though they tried everything, did everything, the investment they put it in lost all the money. And so they lost all their money still because they weren't changing the energetic thermostat. They were just trying to change the surface. So what's landing for you before I talk any further? And you can unmute if you want as well, but what's landing from what I'm sharing here? What are you taking away? Or do you have a question with what I've shared just there?
Easier to unmute, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can see the thermostat analogy playing out in lots of different areas of my life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And this is the thing, like it's everywhere, right? Like I'm going to talk about money, but you could start checking the current reality, like on all of them, and just actually like draw little circles or thermostats or whatever you want. And like, just so like, what are my minimum things? And what are the things I totally like start to the max of what I allow, and then I start to sabotage it, right? Um, we're limited by the size of our thermostat. Yes, my thermostat's stuffed. Okay, well, let's change that for you, hun. Let's start to move that. Love the idea of an energetic thermostat. It finally became clear. Yeah, great, Dal. Change the thermostat on all areas. Yes, just that our beliefs really do shape our reality, and the real unconscious stuff is tricky to shift. Yeah, and this is what I mean by like there's such a depth of the work to do, um, and that's why people like can just keep cycling through the same issues, and then it doesn't matter what they do. Like they've got to really go to the underbelly, the underlayers. And that's why like I love like a lot of people when I see people talk to money or business in the space, they can deal with it at such a surface level, but I love to go deep with people. I love to go into this belly part because this, for me, for 33 years, I had the same problems with money, the same patterns with money. Within 1 month, I tweaked these things and kept learning and building and learning and building more and more and tweaking other things. And it exponentially changed, never to go back again because of that. For, nearly 5 years now, whereas my whole life, it was just crap because I was trying to do all this other stuff, but not to go underneath and change the belly, right? So how do we start to look at the lower and then upper limit? So what do we start to do? So the first thing, yeah, I'll start to talk to that as best as I can in the time that we have, for sure, because this work is quite deep, but I'm trying to give you the most important pieces I can right now. So the first part of this work is getting really clear on what your current thermostat is, being really honest to yourself, being really honest with what is like your minimum standard that you're tolerating in your life right now around money, around income, around savings, around debt, around investing, around, what is it in general? And then all these other areas of your life as well. But I'd encourage you to first, like we're honing in on money because, sometimes we can try and scatter it and do everything, and it's fine, you can, but like let's hone in on one thing first, do that really well and move. It could be amounts, it could be the way it shows up for you, it could be the patterns that you have around it, that it's yo-yos and it comes and goes. Like, because even when I had it yo-yoing, like I could never get a 10K month for 3 years. My income couldn't get to the 10, it was going from 0 to 2 to 5 to 7 to like, bouncing around all of there. So there was like, became like a bit of a minimum amount of like 2K or 1K in my bank account that I would have. And then there'd be like a max of like 7, and I couldn't get it beyond that. So it can be amounts, but it can be just the other things. Yeah. So firstly, like you start to look at that, start to look at the minimum, start to look at where is it, what are you tolerating, what are you allowing, what are you accepting right now? Because often your life at the moment and the way it shows up, money shows up and all the things is it's based off your minimum standard, your current minimum standard. Yeah, it's like I always seem to have just enough to cover the bills. So the minimum standard is like I can afford my life and I can live my life and I can cover my bills, As I said too, like I had a minimum standard that like I didn't let my money go down below $20,000, However, when I went into that dip time, there was a minimum standard and allowance that I could go down below minus 20. And interestingly, it was minus 20,000. And then it was like, I'm not going any further. Boom, like I'm going to move up beyond this. I'm not letting it go any lower, right? So firstly, looking at that. And the second point, and what you start to need to look at and decide is what is your new minimum standard? What is your new level that you're no longer, going to tolerate anything below this? Because and it has to be something that you can really get behind and see, and really start to back. And when I say that, you need to start to say, like, why? Why is this the minimum? Like, why is this what has to happen? And there is no longer any reason, any acceptance, any tolerance below. Right? And it's like you might panic, but it's not even just that. What else? It's like try and build as many big whys and as many important reasons as you can, and I'll talk to you about that and why that's important in a bit. But, for me, even that $20,000 in my savings, it was like, I can't have that in there anymore. Like it has to go at least to 50 at the first point that I moved it up, because it was like, if I have two bills that come out, two big things, my car or something else happens, or I've got some, like that's not enough for me. And so I started to really build like all of these deep reasons and bigger beyond that, bigger ones as to why, like now this is my new minimum and I'm not tolerating anything below this because this, and rant on about that. Right. I know you've probably had these experiences before where you may be treated poorly, or, like there was a point in my business where I'd have these sales calls booked in, and then it's like someone would just not show up and just not communicate with me and ghosted and whatever. And I was like, I got to where I was like, no, like this doesn't happen to me. People do not treat me this way. Like I do not have people not communicate with me and just bail and ghost me. Like I do not get ghosted. That is not how I'm treated. I don't treat myself that way. I don't treat anyone like that. I'm not going to be treated that way. And I started to draw an energetic line of like, this is just not my reality. No one does this to me. And when I started to do that, guess how many times I got ghosted again on a call? You know, guess how many times like people didn't show up, or like it's like the energetic line was drawn, right? So there's some examples. So is it best to have a number you believe you can do a way out? I'll tell you about the upper limit, but for the minimum, it's got to be something that you can back and that you can really see is like a next step, Yeah. Single parent incomes, it's all on me, exhausting. Yes. Hear you, Trish. But again, like, and I've been a single mum the 8 years in my business. And yeah, we also can create completely different reality. I earn more than I ever did when I was with my ex or whatever, so and that was one thing that I had a story around, is like, and a real fear around of like, and also an acceptance of possibility that I could maybe get in below the poverty line. I'm a struggler, I'm a battler, I'm a single mom, and that were things that I had to just like stop telling myself and stop choosing and stop believing. And like that was a big part, like not identify with that type, cast way that I'd put myself in. So do you do self-talk and tell yourself what you expect? Yeah, like I mean, I'd really write it down and but even talk it out loud and just, but you just like, and you'll start to see it's the same as when you put a thermostat into a number, right? Like you'll start to feel like you lock it in and you'll start to be like, yes, I completely back this bullshit. I'm never getting treated like that again. I'm not having this again. I'm not, you know. So yeah, it's key to feel that real energetic like decision of like, yes, this is now my new minimum. Like I'm not tolerating anymore. Like I'm not settling for this. Like this is it. Right. So that's the first thing that you're going to start to do, and start to set new standards, start to set new desires, start to set new, like, this is how I'm going to be treated. This is how I'm going to experience life. This is how money's going to show up for me. This is how I'm going to show up for money. Like all of these things, and you may want to write a whole heap of it and really start to talk about it and build it. If it's not feeling like it's locking in, if you're not really fully behind it, if you still feel like, just because they got to a point, at that point when I started earning the 10K to the 20K, like and beyond, I started to have a minimum then of like, I'm not going anywhere below a 10K. When I decided that, for years, like I did not go below that number, and then again, I increased it and put it up higher and higher and higher. But the moment and the month I decided that and really backed it and really got behind it and just, had all the reasoning why and like really just locked that energetic in, I didn't go below it again, except there was 1 month I went below it. There was 1 month I earned 4,000. And the reason is because I started to feel and think like the magic's going, my mojo's going, like things are going down. Like, and so what happened? Because we're the predominant creative force with money. Our relationship to money is what's reflected and mirrored outside. I went down to 4,000. And then I started working on it. I was like, no, this isn't the mojo gone. This isn't dying. This is just the ebb before the flow. This is the in before the big abundance flood coming at me, and what happened? The next month I had 100K launch. It was whatever was coming on in here was being mirrored out there. I could have so many stories, and I have another masterclass. I shared a bit more about them, if you want to know them, but like where it is literally just ebb and flow in and out up and down based off what is in here. You are the predominant creative force. Okay. And I could do a whole masterclass on that alone. And I do talk a lot about that in my work. But that's so vital to see, so important to see, because that's when we can change it. That's when we can create something new, you know? So that's the first piece around the minimum standard. Then you also have a maximum limit. You have a maximum standard. You have an energetic maximum of what you will allow, you know? When I first had that 100K launch, it's like it went just onto the 100 and it wouldn't go any further. But then the next launch I had, I was like, no, it's going to be 200. I'm going to have this. And it just got onto the 200 and it didn't go anymore, you know, until, and so there's like this limit. But the thing is, it's not even just this money, right? My sight was just set on where I was at now and what I wanted to create now. And it was like, I want to have a 100K launch. I want 10 women in the work and I want to be working with them deeply. So that was my energetic maximum. It happened. I hit it. What happens if we have a maximum like that and we hit it? Is we then go, okay, I can go rest, I can chill out, I can back off, I can just, you know, whatever. Like we energetically start to sabotage any further progress. We energetically slow down, we stop, we rest, we back off. And so then I would, you know, so 6 months and just start riding that wave of that and then go, oh shit, you know, I start to get to my minimum again, start to spend that money, start to have less and go, oh, okay, I've got to go again, you know, and I would have this like yo-yo thing of like starting to have it and then go, why do we have this? Because our energetic maximum is not high enough. We just hit that, we hit this ceiling, we bang up against it and we don't, you know, it's like a cement ceiling, like it's not just glass, like we don't go above it, you know? And so then we bounce around in here, right? So the next thing I want you to do is start to look at like, what is your energetic maximum? What is your maximum for your income? What is your maximum for your savings? What is your maximum for all these things? What are your maximum for your relationships? Like, what's your maximum in a general where your business is here? And so then you might start sabotaging relationships, or you hit it up, you know, and how joyful you are in your relationships. And then you start sabotaging your business. Like, start to look at these patterns in a broad level as well. Yeah, I've always just wanted to cover my bills and that's all you've got. You haven't set your sights higher, right? So the first piece is to really get clear on what is it currently, you know, but then you need to look at where would I love it to be? What would I actually love? Like if I was to really have all that I desire and all the experiences that I desire and, you know, the sort of lifestyle I'd love, or like, what would it be? Interestingly, I did that, you know, a few years ago, like, and realized that I'd love 400,000 or whatever. Guess what? Then I started to create that amount in my business. But again, that was just the next level that I wanted. It wasn't the next level to the next level to the next level. Like once you start to understand what the current level is, like you want to actually go, well, what's the next level above that and the next level above that and the next level above? Like you want to go a few times above it. And I don't just mean money and because again, there needs to be a deep why for this. For all that you're doing with money, like there has to be a deep why, there has to be a deep soul connection. If that's not there, it won't have strong enough of a frequency, high enough of a frequency to propel you and to propel money into showing up, right? Because I started desiring like, you know, money because I could have this car and I could go take my son on this holiday and then, you know, I could have this lifestyle and get a chef and, you know, not work much and have more team. And like, that's all well and fine and good. But the frequency of that is just sort of to me to be in neutrality or surrender or a bit of pride or whatever it is, right? That frequency is not compelling enough for me to go further beyond it. It's still at a ceiling. I had to look at what's the real reason why? What's the deeper reason beyond me? You know, yes, for my son, yes, for my family, all the things, but even beyond that, for the other people, the foundation that I want to create, the other support I want to have for my clients, for my friends, for other people who have these needs, for this other course and development work that I want to do to refine my magician powers to serve even higher, to the PR that's going to elevate me to give this alchemy work out to the world, to become the vessel of alchemy, to become this vessel of this work, the service of that. Because if I'm just making it, which it was at the beginning, about me and getting the car and this and that, it's like I had it, I got it. It's like, what for? When I started making the 10 and 20K, it's like I'd always wanted it. I started making it. It's like, why? What for? Like, what else can I do with this? Like, there's only so much I want for myself. It's not deep enough. It's not strong enough. My soul isn't yearning for it enough. So it wouldn't propel me. It wouldn't compel me. I'd just start taking months of chilling out and taking off marketing. And if, I felt like it, I did it. If I didn't, I didn't. It was very inconsistent. I'm not telling you, ladies, that your energetic maximum just has to be about money numbers and the little couple of things you want to buy, whatever. It has to be so much higher and bigger and deeper than that. It has to be a deep calling of mission and purpose and service to you. I do this work. I run my retreats. I run my programs because of the deep level of service and connection I have to these people and the deep soul reason as to why I'm doing it. I wouldn't do it otherwise. There are so many challenges. There's so many hiccups. There's so many tests. There's so many reasons just to chill and go get a job or go chill in my business and make it just strategy, whatever it is, right? The only thing that compels me and propels me and keeps me consistent and keeps me showing up, even when it's tough or hard or vulnerable, or is because of that deep yearning that my soul, it's just this thirst that will not be quenched. It's bigger than me and it never gets met, not from a place of like, I have to chase after this goal and, like only then I'm worthy. It's just from this deep inner yearning of expression of my creative power, of my genius, of my purpose, of the reason I'm here on this planet, the reason why God, the universe, whatever, put us here, like us doing our work, us channeling and being that role we're meant to play. This is why. And when you connect to that source reason for money or source reason for business or source reason for your offerings, or you connect to the deep reason, the deep mission, the deep why, intimately yourself and your true nature and purpose, and you know how to plug into that, only then will you tap into abundance of crazy levels in all levels of your life, not just with money, but across everything. Because that's the only force that will compel you beyond this little limit. That's like turning the thermostat right on up there. And if I knew this at the beginning of my business or in those times where I started to hit there, but then I just sort of, yo-yo back and forward because it wasn't big enough, it wasn't grand enough, it wasn't high enough, my vision wasn't beyond. So I'd hit it and I'd be like, is this it? So tell me what you're taking away. You can unmute, you can write in the chat, just, tell me what's landing, tell me what's alive, ladies. I'd love to hear.
I've been trying to find all the things that I want but you're right, it's not enough. I've got this real yearning though to be able to help people improve their health, and particularly in Australia, the Aboriginal community. So that's something I deeply want to do. And so, so what's landing for me is that I need to tap into that way more.
Yeah. And there's different levels of your why and what else. And it's fine to want, I still want these holidays and experiences with my son and time out and decision that I can
Me
be,
too.
or, we want that. And that's great. There's no shaming of that, right? Like money wants to give you that too, but it also wants so much more for you, and it wants so much more for the community and the collective. And that again is where you will not stop until that, if you just get your little cool watch, or it's like, it can come and go how excited you are,
Yeah.
But when I used to make it about money to get this and that or whatever, it just always would block me. But when I made it about the transformation that my ladies would have and the community and the mentors I could get because of the work I'm doing with them to then elevate them, or like that, the foundation I want to do to support women in developing countries to have their own businesses and then fund for their community and their kids, like that is what,
Amazing. Yeah.
So
makes total sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Great, Dal. Agree, that landed for me too. The material stuff will come, and then what? Yeah, that's right. And I know when you're in that energetic level of like needing it, wanting it, like you're in more of survival or bills, or like it's still things like, that would be so nice to have all these things. And it's like it is, but if that's all there is, like you will hit the maximum and it will just feel futile. And 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 yeah, it just won't be as deeply satisfying for sure and fulfilling. Who else would like to share just a key takeaway landing? You can put it in the chat or unmute. I wouldn't know what my why is, not on a soul level. I see myself as a barefoot hippie doing energy work to help others surf waves around the world and travel to discover medicine men and shamans. Love that. And you can still have elements of that as well, of course, and then there's other things that your soul deeply wants too. Because the thing is, like our soul and like I call it the superconscious, like it wants everything for us, you know? And so when I talk about abundance, when I used to operate in just this business mindset and the way that these coaches used to teach me and strategies, and it was so just like business, money, like create this, strategize that, like it was just so limited and it cost the rest of my life. Like it started impacting my relationships. I didn't make any time for that. My son, I didn't have as much presence with him, or because it was just like trying to focus on this one little thing. Your soul like wants all of it for you. It wants abundance. It wants you to create on all these levels and experience fulfillment and wholeness in life, right? So yeah, there's that and more that your soul wants and your highest wants. Thank you for bringing soul purpose into the picture and the energetics of money. I resonate with that, even if it doesn't feel clear to me what the soul is exactly. Yeah. And this is where, like, I'm trying to give you girls as much as I can in an hour call, right? But this is work that I've studied for 8 years in general and collected over this time. And it's work I've spent, 800K now investing into, and my depths and my energetics and work on myself and intuitive work. So there's a lot to it. And the actual application of this and how you actually uproot it and deeply get it embedded and know what the key soul purpose is and know what your mission is and know like your true nature and like what it really is that you're here to do and get in alignment with that. The moment I started doing those things and knowing those things from intuitive work that I was taught, that's when my business started to explode, and I started to elevate at a crazy level because I was just being who I really was meant to be. And I was being what I was excited to do. And I was, my soul. And the moment I started to actually get to the depth, and it wasn't through just figuring it out, it was through these deep intuitive readings that we do. The moment I started to unpack that was when I started to have that purpose and that energy that was just beyond. And I started creating abundance that was beyond what I needed for these other things. And that overflow sense started to happen. Right. But it's not something that you can just sort of consciously do, or else the whole world would be doing it. Right. It's there's an energetic to it. There's an intuitive piece to it. We come from a place of service and our deepest yearning. We continue to expand. Yes. You've hit the nail on the head about not being present with our children. I've been torn between spending time with family and thinking I have to spend time. Yeah. And that's a constant battle too. And there is a way, and again, the superconscious soul knows the way on how to evolve this and evolve you and go for your true nature. And your true nature involves loving on your family and being there with them as well. And it knows how to do all of that and not for anything to take the toll and sacrifice. When we're trying to work consciously and we're trying to work in the masculine and we're trying to work in strategy, that's when it starts to affect everything, tapping into the deepest reason of why, not just for me, but the service I can provide the world. It's important work for abundance. Yes, very much. I need to give myself permission and encouragement to do what really makes me shine, not what I should. Yeah, that's right. And I was following all the time what these coaches told me to do and what I was told I should do. And like the moment I went into my intuitive work and my work, that's my soul and my background and my heart, even though they said it wasn't going to earn any money, it makes sense strategy wise, like that was the moment it unlocked for me, right? So Carol, I have quite a number. So Carol's asked, do I have any particular techniques to work this out? I have quite a number of techniques that are from the lens of the superconscious, but I have 3 areas of the work that I do and how I do this. So the first layer is through what I call the superconscious, which is, our intuitive work, the genius that is within you, your higher self, like getting the download from that space and working with that. And also I do it from like a soul level, an emotional, energetic level, and it's more of an embodiment experience through that way and that work. And that's also working with like your ego, your unconscious, your identity, your, inner child, like those elements of you that are scared shitless and don't want, like, and holding you down in the minimum and don't want you to go any further. Like, we work on how to like release some of that and work with that emotionally as well, energetically. And then I also work on what I call soma, which is for practical business, money, space, that are more action orientated, rebato, follow through orientated, that are practical things to get offers out in the world, to hold up, different patterns around money, and like from a more practical sort of point of view as well. So they're the three techniques, worlds I work in and areas I use. And so in my work that I do on myself and that I teach my clients, they're the three ways that I work with it. And under each of those, so for instance, and I was going to mention this to you ladies as well, my Fiji retreat is coming up in October, the 12th of October, and it's for a week. And there I teach over nearly 20 different insights and pieces and mechanics and techniques to move you from those current realities to the vision that you have, to move your business, to move your abundance, to move these things, which then apply the same principles and the same techniques apply for every area of your life. So in Fiji, we're going to really hone in on abundance, on money, on your relationship to yourself, your power, your relationship to the soul of money, and also how to, shift that and shift your business and elevate it to a whole nother level of abundance. And I teach you the same principles that took me for that 10, 20K months to the 100, 200K launches, to how I've manifested it with magnetism, So that's where I'll teach it in Fiji. That's where, and also the other way I teach it and go in depth with it right now as well is in my alchemy program, my alchemy mastermind, 6 months. And that's where we go deep into the superconscious, into the soul, into business and money, intuitive business and money. And it's a lot more guided by me, very deeply, intimately held by me. The whole point of all of my work is a deep, intimate connection with you, to go again into the underlying parts, to then I'll release you from that and connect you to your higher self, to really create abundance with that ease, and magnetism, to the point that it opens up the life of you and doesn't hurt other parts of your life. So it's very different. I've done so many different programs, mentors, and they often just teach one area of this, like the superconscious, or some embodiment, or some business, money, strategy stuff, but they don't teach it all, and they often don't go into the depth of what I think you need to really release it. So yeah, they're the ways to learn it right now with me. And where I go into it, because I've told you the techniques I can in this hour, but I can't tell you the depth and like do it intimately with you like I can in these spaces. So if anyone wants info on Fiji or alchemy, if you could just put Fiji or alchemy in the chat, that would be awesome, because I'd love to send you some pieces on that to help you know how you could maybe start to, explore this deeper and actually really embed this and actually change things in your life, to not repeat the same patterns, not to repeat the same cycles. And I guess the key thing I want to say to you as well, ladies, and you'll hopefully see this from my style and who I am, is I'm a very real, raw, intimate person. And so if you want to know info on anything or explore it, like we look at it intimately with you and we just look at where you're at, where you want to be, and if this is a fit for you or not, because I don't want to work with anyone where it's not for both of our highest to work together, and it's not obvious and intuitively obvious to work together. So yeah, we'd explore it and see. And if not, just tell you what else you could do to move forward, yeah. So that genuine care, intimacy, relationship is embedded in all of my work and the way that I run it now. So yes, awesome. I will send that info to you, ladies. I'm just going to also put in the chat here. It would be super easy for me, because some of you guys have different names in real life to what you do in Zoom and blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to put a link here. If you did say, yes, you'd love info, then can you please click that link and fill that in? That would be amazing. So then I can just connect with you on that form. But otherwise as well, that if you find it super easy, the easiest way would be to just send me a message on Instagram or Facebook for Miranda Married if we're connected there. That would be awesome as well. Just so that I can send it, because some of you might be connected, some may not. So that would be great. Particularly like, Carol, because I don't know your surname, or even if you can put it in as well. But if you could connect with me, that would be amazing. So ladies, I'm now just going to open up any space for if you have any questions or anything else you want to share. Like, I'm just going to open some time now to just talk to you. If there's something else, I love to chat. If you need to go, much love as well. But if anyone wants me to answer anything, let me know. Let me know. You got me. No, no questions. All good if there's none. But if there is, I'm here to, even if it's something, that you find a patterning you've got right now, or you need to just, yeah. Yeah.
I've been in single parenthood now for about 18 months. And this is just a question from mum to mum, really. But how long did it really take you until you really had a breakthrough? I'm still in quite a state of fear. I have days where I'm feeling more powerful. I have days where I feel terrified, quite honestly. But I can feel something inside of me that's just so powerful and ready to go. I'm just wondering, what was your most powerful technique that really helped you to just break through? Because I've got all these dreams and it's almost like I know what I want to do, but I just can't break through. So I just wonder, what was maybe your most powerful technique?
Yeah, it's a great question, hun, and thank you for bringing it. And I hear you, as a mum and a single mum. I see you and see your courage that you're taking, the desire that you have, the yearning, for another way and another life. Like, so I'm really sending you a lot of love with that, because it's not easy when you're trying everything and you're doing everything you can and it just doesn't seem to change. Um, Honestly, in terms of breakthrough, I see it in a way of like, we have threads. The universe has these threads. It's like a puppet, I guess, right? It's like you see a little puppet, it's got all these threads, and the threads that are holding you back and limiting you and making you a puppet right now, and to not, being a power to something, not being in control and not creator, is different to what it was for me, and it's different to everyone. And the amount of threads you have versus, and this is why we can't look at anyone's journey and compare us or anything, because, there was a girl, and I was 3 years in my business, worked everything, worked so hard. And then, she was in the same program. I mean, she started for like 2 months in her business or something, and she'd made 100K in the sales. And I was like, F you, like I was so angry, but it led me to ask her, like, how, what happened? And she talked about energy. And she introduced me to a book that started my whole journey into the energy world, right? So there was a thread on me that was like, I was doing everything in this like material, physical realm, but I wasn't in the energetic realm. I wasn't in the quantum. So that was bang, one thread that started to, but even that thread, it started to like, I started to cut at it, but I had 3 layers because I didn't fully trust energy. I didn't fully lean in. I didn't, I did this 1 month where I learned how to meditate, and I made a 10K month from meditating. And then the next month I didn't, like I stepped back and out. So, but then there was another thread of my self-worth and how worthy I felt and how insecure I felt. And only when I started to like, and how you say, how did I change that? It's like the universe knows and your intuition knows like what is needed. And the thing that isn't the technique for me isn't the same for you. It's your own unique little path and plan. And when I work with clients, I'm always looking at intuitively, like, what is it? Because each person's is uniquely different. And the thing that worked for me isn't the thing that worked for them, right? But for me to break through that self-worth piece, like I did this practice, this embodiment tool that was to really back myself for this 5 minutes of ranting of how fucking amazing I am, whatever. But I also how worthy I am with this and this. But I also did um pro bono work, and I poured myself for free into these people after 4 years in my business. I really served them all my heart and soul, gave them massive value, built my self-worth and my value on myself. And then they started to pay me as well and see that I, so there was two things, like few things for the self-worth piece. Like, so see how I'm saying, like, there wasn't ever actually one thing, and what it
Yeah.
is for me is different. I had also a thread around scarcity and abundance. And so one of the things is I started every day in that month going to the fear, going to the terror, going into like, I don't have money for this bill, where the fuck, this is getting like out of control, I'm going to lose my house, like, and going to that, going into scarcity, feeling it, and then going back to abundance, and this is what I see, this is what I want, this is what I know is possible, and holding in the abundance space until I got triggered again, and going back here and go. And I did that 10 times a day, multiple times a day, and I kept getting triggered and kept going back. And so that was another thread. Like, but I'm just trying to say, like, there were a few, but the thing is, you don't need to know mine. And it's not about because my path and your path are different. It's listening out to and trusting the universe is benevolent and wants you to break through. And abundance is actually your birthright, and it actually wants to be there. And as you go deeper into your intuition, go deeper into the energetic world, go deeper into like listening to the nudges, listening to the universe's voice for you. What's the message? What's the lesson? That's where you get the breakthrough, because your superconscious, the universe, your heart, your soul wants to teach you, and it wants you to break through, and it wants this, and it's going to guide you, So I hope that helps, hun. But yeah, embodiment is really key. The emotional pieces are, really key. Yeah. So.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I hope that helps, honey.
It did. It helped a lot. Thank you.
And I know you have it. But the thing as well is just to know that you keep moving with this. And again, the more depth of intuitive work that you do and like the deeper real work, you will break through. You're not a different being to me. You have an unconscious and a superconscious. I have an unconscious and a superconscious. Like, you will, if you keep moving and doing that, I think my son's coming down the talking about sons. I hear him running. Anyway, lots of love to you, hun.
Thank you.
Great question. Anyway, I think we may finish up on that question, because for some reason my son hasn't woken up. But it was a great question. I hope people got something out of that as well. If you do have any other questions, you can send me a message. But Wendy, the book was what's wrong, Thomas? The book was Abraham Hicks, Ask and It Is Given. That was that one. But I mean, it's not, I have so many that I read. It's not like it's amazing, the best, whatever, but it was the first introduction I had to like the energetic world. Okay, yeah. Well, our kids are waiting on us. Lots of love, everyone. And I look forward to hearing from you soon. Ciao, ciao.